Welcome to The Empty Canvas, a podcast about how creativity begins. I'm the host, Pascal Anson, and today I'm joined by artist Bokani.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you could come. Thank you very much. So I think maybe we should explain how we know each other.
Yes. Very embarrassing 2 episodes of my life.
No, not at all. So we met on a reality TV program in 2018,
Oh my gosh,
2017.
it's a while ago, yeah.
Called the Big Painting Challenge.
Yes.
And but we also see each other on the bus sometimes.
Yes, because we're neighbours-ish, so
Yeah.
we live in the same neighbourhood.
I'm sorry to hear that was a little bit traumatic. I can imagine it's just part of the journey though, right? It's just kind of
100%,
sometimes
100%.
getting you places or getting you past a certain point.
Exactly.
So the aim of this conversation really is to talk about your creative process and how you start. And I think for lots of people, the idea of, or the romantic idea of being an artist, a tortured artist, is quite an appealing one sometimes. And I'd really like just to get some insight into your creative process and how you go about, right at the beginning, starting. Is there something you can...
It's something that I can go to. My space is usually quite a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So what it looks like for me starting doesn't look like I'm starting to anyone else, in that I'm just organizing the chaos in the space. So normally it just looks like I'm cleaning. And it's a starting process that is from below zero, if you will.
So that's very interesting, because I also think sometimes a way of working is to make sense out of chaos, out of mess.
Yeah.
And I think purposefully sometimes as artists, we can make a mess of something, whether it's on a piece of paper or in a room.
Right.
And then part of the work is trying to order that.
Yes,
would you
like
agree?
corral that. I think I've not really thought through the kind of logic behind what's happening when I'm tidying up, but I'm usually putting anything that I'm likely to use to the fore, even colours. I'm sort of selecting them, but not in a way that feels like I'm selecting.
But so you're tidying up. Who's made the mess in the first place?
I've made the mess.
From last time?
After what happened last time.
Okay,
yes.
okay.
But also just generally, I'm a bit like a magpie. If I'm on the street walking somewhere and someone's put out, I don't know, like I had a sash window, like full frame from a building site, I'll think, oh, maybe I'll use that one day. And if you just keep doing that enough, you end up with a ton of stuff that looks really like rubbish, or materials that I've just gone, oh, that's interesting.
Or like a really, really hip and trendy East End art gallery.
If it was not a mess.
Well, it's debatable. I think sometimes those things are quite close. So
yes, actually, that's true.
Okay, so that's really good to know. So I love this idea of like looking for things, or not even looking for things, just being surprised by things you find, and collecting them, and then trying to make sense of them later.
And trying to make sense of them later. So sometimes even the making, I try to make sense of later. In that, before, because I like to work with different surfaces, so there's a lot of experimentation in what type. So the glass materials are easier because I now know how to paint on a mirror.
Yeah.
And kind of how I need to prepare that surface slash window. I know how to clean the glass and then what type of paint would work on it. But I've been on residencies before where I've decided on a material after observing the space that I was in. And so I went away, and the residency was in my hometown in Zimbabwe. And I had an idea of what I wanted to make as a show. And I had an idea of the space, but I didn't think, oh, I'm going to make these paintings on a canvas, or I'm going to show photographs. I don't really work that way.
So was it a feeling of something, or was it an abstract visual? What was, when you say you sort of knew what you wanted to do?
Well, I knew the space and I knew the feeling that I'd like to evoke. I knew that the audience coming to that show wouldn't necessarily be people who are used to going to any exhibition. And I also knew that abstraction can scare people because they now have to step up and make meaning of the work. As I'm not telling you what to think, typically, although I really want to.
You can suggest, can't you? You can suggest or lead people.
Yes, in a direction. And so, in that case, I picked materials that are ubiquitous in Zimbabwean homes. So a reed mat, a gourd out of like a calabash, and I painted all those objects and assembled them together. But I think about 2 weeks before the show, the gallery was kind of going, your studio seems to be just full of things, and you started doing these paint experiments because I wasn't familiar with what paint would sit on what material well, and what would it look like once it's dried. And so I was doing a lot of learning, and that's very much also a part of my process. If I have a show or a space that I've not worked in before, and they haven't specifically asked for an existing artwork, then I like, getting into the materiality of the object. But I think I don't try and impose what will happen beforehand.
But I think that's like that has such confidence, because
it doesn't feel like it.
No, I'm sure it doesn't feel like it. But I think people think that confidence is the opposite, where you're like, this is the end point that I want to get to, and I've got all these steps that I know how to get to the end point. Before you've even started experimenting or pulling things together. And I love this idea that you can pull in lots of things, and presumably there's then an editing process where you're like, well, that's not quite right, that's not quite right, and you start to kind of ruthlessly or not ruthlessly cut back on what you've got until things make sense.
Yeah, and they sort of start to sing. I don't really know
They start to work together, I suppose.
Yeah.
It starts to make sense, and then people have a reaction to it and go, not, Bokani, can you tidy up your room? We're like, oh.
Exactly. And I think coming back once something has been made is a bit of that feeling, because I like to work in one go on one piece, ideally. So I don't like to have like a layer, let it dry, and then come back, and then another layer. So part of that getting ready to start means I sort of want to have everything I'm thinking I might use in the space. So pots to mix paints and colours in, if I want to use a spray paint, if I want to use like a glossier enamel, I want gloves, I want to have it all ready.
So are you saying there's a kind of two-step process to this, of the process of starting?
Yeah.
Are you saying there's like a sort of preparation, a physical preparation of what you need, and then there's the starting process, which then comes after the first start?
Yes.
So there's
there's a pre-start tidying up, which is an editing as well. Cup of tea. I quite like listening to either music or books or podcasts, because it makes me feel like I'm doing this with others in a way, and I often find sometimes being in the studio by myself, if you were looking in, you would just see one person, but to my mind, it's not one person. There's either the people that came before me, like spiritually, but also the voices that are literally in the room.
Yeah.
And that also creates a part of that preparation.
Okay, so I love this idea of, thank you for explaining that, about this kind of two-part start. What I would like to ask you next, I suppose, is those things that you're preparing, how do you know those are going to be useful? Because they're not just like random things, they're things that you think you might need in the second start.
Yeah.
How do you get to that point?
That's a really great question. I don't quite know, because I always feel a bit like my studio. You know, in Harry Potter, there's a room of requirement where whatever you need will just sort of show up. I have a sense that once I started working, I'm like, oh, everything I need happens to be here. And
yeah, but you've done something about that, right? It's not
Yeah,
just
in
happens
theory.
to be here. You've gone shopping for it and you've mixed
Sure.
it and it's there. And...
Sure, but it's so intuitive. Even my shopping process, I'll think, oh, I'm really interested in these colours lately. And what I realised is that whenever I'm so prescriptive about what it is, even if it's a colour effect that I'm trying to get, I get it so wrong. And I'm so dissatisfied with it. It never really matches up. Whereas when I just make myself available to the thing, whatever then will happen, I'm much, much more interested in that, even in the process of making. So even on, I've cleaned the surface or I've primed a canvas, but I really stretch my own. That's something else that I've realised it's not.
But I suppose, like, there's that type of preparation as well, which is just kind of like making sure stuff is clean and stuff is ready and you've got some paper and your pencils are just sharpened. But then it seems like there's another thing, which is a very, very deliberate gathering of the materials that you're going to need so that your creative process isn't interrupted by, oh, I've got to go to blah, blah, blah.
I hate that.
That breaks something.
Yeah. I want to be in a space of complete flow. I only want to stop because I'm really hungry or exhausted. Yeah. Or I'm like, oh, these fumes are probably not very healthy. I should open a window. I need, that clean stretch. And so I quite like not having anything planned after I've been at the studio, because then that becomes like a thing that I now have to put an alarm on to sort of wake me up out of whatever is happening in the studio.
So having like a very fixed, generous amount of time dedicated to yourself, that's not going to be interrupted, I think is a really, really good piece of advice, I think, for people that are trying to plan their own creative process and figure out what they need. Because we all have, if we don't pay attention, we can all have lots and lots of interruptions. Yeah, okay. Can I just go back to a little bit about what you were saying about the exhibition in Zimbabwe? Was there a brief that you got given for that?
Well, I applied, so I made my brief.
Okay.
And they said,
How did you go about that?
I said I wanted to make a show that allowed me to have a homecoming. And I wanted to look at the experiences of women in Zimbabwe, because that is also an experience that I didn't get to have. I didn't get to have a coming of age in Zimbabwe in that context. And within that context, you sort of learn and pick up things societally that help you to be who you will become as a woman, and that is useful to that society, to your community, to your family. And because I was here, I felt like there was a gap a little bit, in that I became a different woman, but one who's cosmopolitan, And so I'd written about wanting to explore women's experiences, and originally I thought I'd find a site that I could then base all the artworks on, so a bench or something, where I might meet lots of different women and talk to them about their experiences, either film it, paint it, draw it, collect the sound. And once I arrived, I realized that was a terrible idea. But I still wanted the idea of a site. And so the Reed Mat became that site, because it's in every home. Yeah. And so,
Okay, so can I just try and understand this a little bit more, just in terms of breaking that out? So you had an opportunity, you put forward an idea, which was that you wanted to kind of reclaim coming of age, which you've explained really well. And then the next bit was not what do I want to do, but how do I want to do that, right? And you thought something was going to happen, and then it wasn't quite right, so then you had to change.
Yeah.
But the original idea stayed the same, right? So you didn't think.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So when the bench didn't work, you didn't what? How did you end up thinking? Oh no, this is still the good idea. It's just not quite the right vehicle for this idea.
it's not the right material.
or spot or place or...
Yeah, I mean, because I also thought about a tree, and then also thought I could follow a note around. So give somebody a note in the city in the morning, like a schoolgirl going to school, pays the public transport, and then just follow that note as it went around.
And like a banknote?
Yeah.
Okay.
And see, because I like to introduce some randomness or some something out of my control. So when I'm painting, it can be like moving the canvas around, or the materiality presents that randomness. And I just couldn't. I didn't like this idea of surveillance, of like following people around or like interviewing. It just felt artificial.
But my question really was like going back to the initial idea, and how did you know that core idea was the right thing? So each time you tried this thing, whether it was the bench or the tree or the banknote, and you were not feeling it was quite right, instead of changing the original idea, you kind of no, not at all. It's like going. I always think it's like going back to the point where everything makes sense.
Yes.
So the thing makes sense of you being here and not there for your coming of age.
Yeah.
But why did you know that that was the right thing, but you just hadn't quite found how to do it yet?
I think on some level I knew that that's what I needed. So a lot of my art, I make it because I've not seen that in the world, and I need it.
Yeah.
And therefore I need to see it. And so I think there's all those other ways of maybe executing on that idea. I felt like maybe I've seen before, or I just found not satisfying before.
Great. That's really clear.
And so I was just like, I need an excuse to go and spend time with women in the rural areas making these mats. And
so the mat was the thing that you settled on.
Yeah.
So after you'd done the application process, and then you had this kind of abstract but fairly kind of set idea of what you wanted to do. After trying lots of different things, something told you that the mat was the right.
Yeah, similarly in my grandmother's house where I was staying. But it was strange because preparing to go to that residency, I had to pack things here, and obviously there's a weight limit of what you can take. You can't take everything.
Yeah.
And I knew I'd been in a community of other artists, so I wanted to take things that I could also leave that might be helpful to others. But I wasn't really thinking about what am I going to make. I don't think I used anything that I took with me. Really.
Wow, really?
Maybe some gloves.
No.
You know, and I bought things and I prepared, I thought. So I had like some canvas,
Prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
Well, I don't know what I prepared.
I think over-preparing is not a bad thing at all. Over-preparing is good. I'm an over-preparer as well. And
but I did it wrong because I didn't use any of those things, really.
Yeah, that's difficult, I think, isn't it? When you...
Yeah.
But in a way, I guess it's also quite nice to go somewhere and be surprised. And you maybe, I don't know, but I can imagine if I was in a similar position, I'd think it was one thing, and then actually it turns out to be something else. So would you say that kind of application process where you're applying to residencies is the closest you get to responding to a brief or a call out?
Yeah. And hilariously, I hate doing it. And now I almost never like to work to a brief. In large part because I think it's so counterintuitive for how I work. So I work quite selfishly in that, like I said, it's something that I need to see in the world.
Yeah.
And then later I need to like bring other people on board or whatever. Or someone will say, oh, we've got this show and that thing that you did over here that you shared once, we think could be interesting and could work with this. Do you have any more work in that vein?
What about the activism posters that you did? Was that responding to a brief, or was that something that you made and people saw it, as you just said, saw it fitting somewhere? I had made them, and I'd seen other posters in the same
vein. And so I just DM'd the curator and I said, hey, I see you're doing these billboards. I have something that I sort of...
You're so good at stuff like that. I feel like you're so good at putting yourself out there and kind of you've got this like very charming way of doing it, and I think that's also something great to see how people approach getting their work shown and getting their work seen.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
It's not, and I wish I did it more. I wish I was as good as you think I am at it, because I don't do it enough, and I notice that I don't do it enough. And in part because I struggle with that thing of, unless something really strikes me and I'm like, oh, this makes sense. But applying for open calls, I don't always feel like they allow me to fully express what I want to say, how I want to say it. And also, because as a brief, I don't think I'll be surprised by something.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a big part of my process is I'm learning, either about the material, about the world, about who I am. And so working towards something that's already a conclusion made feels quite a closed way of working. So I love the idea of people saying, okay, here's some resources, a big building space, here's some materials. And more importantly, here's some time. you know, like have some time, have like 2 months to just play, explore.
So so I think this is very interesting in terms of the idea of empty canvas, because there's something for me, if somebody said you've got 2 months and you can do whatever you like, there's something slightly scary about that for me, because I'm going to try and turn this into a question, because I suppose for me, I would be thinking, well, what if what I do in that period isn't kind of enough or right, or what if it turns out to be rubbish? Whereas you seem really excited by that. Of like, I've got this time, but there must be something, a confidence, a faith within you that kind of says, well, it will be whatever the universe allows me to produce in this time. Yeah,
and I think that to me is a space that I find the other way quite constricting and quite like, I get literally night sweats where I'm just like, I feel so encased that I don't know if my best comes from that, but I also don't know what my best is, because I don't think I've done it yet. And so the reason why I like to be surprised by is because I do have a faith that there's something wonderful just on the horizon to discover.
And it might be during that 2 months.
And it might be during that 2 months. Or it might be just after that 2 months, actually. But I like that process of becoming, because I'm not fixed. Like, none of my work, I don't think, the thing that probably runs in common, even all these different materials, I'm painting, yes, but none of it is like fixed. It's not like a solid standing thing. I mean, the mirrors, all throughout the day, all throughout the year, they're reflecting light in completely different ways. The painting looks like it's still dripping a lot, and I like that dynamicness.
Can I ask you something about that sort of, I don't know if it's a series or a motif or a collection. You seem to have got to a point when, if we look at a greenhouse, we look at a mirror, we look at a painting on the canvas, or a pair of shoes, that you've got a particular way of working. And I wonder if you could just explain how you got to that point of, as an artist, having these sort of tools in your belt, in terms of changing the medium into different ways, but still keeping it feeling like it's you.
I wish I could answer that.
Is there a point where you're like, oh, I've got all this stuff now, and I know what I'm doing? I don't really know.
Not quite. Well, and part of like going from paper, which I used to paint on predominantly because it's affordable, and I had found, because there's something about paper that means you can throw it out, that it feels a lot less of an investment, so you can experiment. And so I quite like working on paper. And then I started working on canvas, and I was like, oh, this is a bit scary.
The canvas is expensive.
Yes, the paints that you're using on canvas, and
investment.
prime, and like it has such a process. And then you have varnish after, like, not, and I paint horizontally, so I don't ever paint with a surface like upright. I like to like move the paint around on a flat surface. And I think I don't want to fix this kind of, I will only ever work on mirrors, or I'll only ever,
No, of course not.
who knows what, could happen. And even when I was working on code, the thing with, in code, so computational art, so using code and robotics to make artworks.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know, a whole master's. The thing that I hated about it is, again, I didn't find I could, ironically, experiment enough. And the experiment would happen behind the screen. So all the randomness and things, I couldn't see it being formed, so I couldn't intervene.
This is Bokani, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We need to put a picture of that on the canvas just to explain to people.
So I found, like, making the robot go this way or that way, I could input things and it would surprise me a bit, but it was only when I made the physical robot that I was like, oh, this is art again. But I struggled so much with writing code, because you write it and then you see the output, and then maybe you edit it and then you see it differently. But between those two iterations, you're not directly intervening, and that's the thing that you get with physically making them.
Yeah, it's interesting talking to you now. I really get a sense of your intuition and your feel for what's right, what's wrong, what you're interested in, what you're not interested in, what's speaking to you, what's singing. So I think that sort of, that voice which is saying, this is something to continue with, this is something not to continue with, or I've tried this and it's not quite working for me. I think that's probably, I don't know about you, is that something that you've taken a long time to trust your own judgment in terms of, well, just when you start, whether that path's right or that path's right? Do you think you get better at that?
I don't know that I'm confident in that. I do know that I once I get to a certain point where I'm in the work, great.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the procrastination, the precrastination, it's all to help me, like, right, it'll be fine, it's gonna be great, you'll have everything that you need, now you can go for it.
So I used to have to say that, as you know, I'm a designer more than I'm an artist, but I remember having this thing where I would allow an idea to build inside me and not do anything. But I'd allow it to kind of like grow and almost snowball until I was like bursting, and then I had to do something. I don't know if that's quite the same, because I think probably everyone experiences that a little bit differently.
I completely relate to that, not in that a specific idea or that I've a fixed on it, like grasp on it, but rather that it's compulsive. That if I don't paint for a while, or if I don't make something for a long time, I do feel like I'm holding something in that shouldn't be in.
And is that a good feeling, or?
Oh no, I get very restless, and I know that I need to go out and, like, I don't know, I just need to get myself.
See, I love that feeling. It's like going up on a roller coaster and just kind of getting to the top, but like really, really slowing down, and then thinking, okay, now
let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. Yeah, no, for me, it's like a tightness. Like I need, I do need a release, but it's a reminder that this is what I was made to do in a way.
And what about a block? Do you ever have like a creative block or something that's not allowing you to progress?
I think, interestingly, going back to that residency, when I first got that first week, I'd been so sure about what I was here to do, and then I was like, this is a terrible idea. So it wasn't so much a block as a fudge. What I thought would work isn't going to work. And
But that's when you draw on other skills, sort of like
Yeah.
resilience and adaptability, and having to kind of make quickly resolve something.
Again, wish I'd known that I had that inbuilt, because at the time I didn't feel like it.
I'm interested to know, did that feel like a block, or did it feel like just an obstacle or a hurdle?
No, it did feel like the closest, I guess, to like a writer's block, because I knew I could do something, and I would, deliver an exhibition, but I knew it wasn't the right exhibition. And so what I was up against is knowing that there was something on the other side of this like block that was the right thing, and I didn't know how to access it quickly. I didn't have.
So what did you do? How did you get through it?
I mean, luckily in Zimbabwe you have load shedding, so 3 days in a week the electric goes all the time, so you can't be on your phone. You can't.
So you're not doing the scrolling, thinking, I know I've got this really big exhibition to do, but I'm just going to look at some recipes.
You are left with your thoughts, and everybody goes to bed super early as a result. And so I had to sit in it and jot and sketch and sort of just be in my grandmother's house. So my grandmother had passed the year before, and I like the spaces that I'm in to become internal. So yes, they're environments, but I observe them, or I observe how light moves in a room, and that brings it into my interior somehow. So like that deep observation became how I overcame it, but I wouldn't have articulated it that way. I would have just gone, I was quietly panicking.
Yeah, but that's a great story. But I think it's also really interesting to talk about it afterwards, because you're saying that in the moment, it's not what it felt like, but it's only in retrospect that you can now see that that's what you were doing.
That I was observing everything in my grandmother's house.
I guess a block looks like many different things for many different people, but I'm sensing here that there's a calmness and there's a stillness and there's an introspection that you experienced in order to get you past that.
And I try once a year to have like a silent retreat, because I quite like my inside, voice, and it's I always think of people's interiors as like different architectural like spaces, like round, like beautiful, like a rock and garden, like the courtyard and this sort of thing. And mine is probably more like lakes and like,
And is that your inspiration, do you think?
My aunt, or
no, well, maybe, but in terms of the thing that you look at that then brings you a means to then work on your own work.
I think it's the possibility of that quiet is what inspires me. So rather than physically what I'm actually looking at, it's just the space to be still.
And something emerges from that.
And something emerges from that, yeah. So I find quiet and stillness incredibly inspirational. Not because I know, not because I know what will come out of it.
There's so much confidence and faith in that statement, though. That's why I say that you come across in a confident way, because I think a lot of people, probably myself included, would panic and start doing loads of things, as opposed to just stopping and resting and thinking.
Yeah, the resting and thinking for me is where that's where I get real. And I think it's to do with feeling part of a thing, as opposed to being separate to that thing. The thing being the world and our existence, and in stillness I feel like, I'm part of this universe, as opposed to acting on it or separate to it.
God, there's a lot there to think about, and I think that's kind of inspirational for people who are wondering about whether they're doing the right thing. I think sometimes people just need to hear that that's the way to overcome a block or a hurdle or whatever it is that's stopping you.
Yeah, I hope so. I also think that people might not realize that out of that stillness, maybe I'm a minimalist. I'm not. I'm a maximalist.
Yeah.
I am a prolific. I make and make and make and make and make. And that is also, and I know one of those things will be right.
Yeah. Not everything you make is great, is it? I mean,
no,
as an artist,
at all.
No.
But I'm okay with that. I think there's something to be said for volume. For me, being a way of going towards what I think I'm capable of, or what I hope I'm capable of. Yeah.
Great. Just before we finish, I've got some rapid fire this or that for you.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Nervous but ready.
Okay, so pencil or marker?
Marker.
Analog or digital?
Analog. I
Okay.
don't think I would get that, but yeah.
Monochrome or colourful?
Colourful, yeah.
Big sketches or little sketches?
Big.
Loose sheets or pages in a sketchbook?
Loose.
Keep mistakes or bin mistakes?
Keep.
Think then do, or do then think?
Do then think.
Creative chaos or calm order?
Creative chaos.
We've talked about this already.
But I like other people's calm order.
Background noise or silence?
Depends. Silence. I think fan to really choose.
But you also said that you listen to music or...
Yeah,
so,
both. But
you're allowed both, I think.
Okay, then both. But contextually.
Finished or never finished?
Never finished.
And lastly, all-nighter or up early?
All-nighter. Always. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank
That's
you.
absolutely brilliant.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It was very nice to have you.
That was very helpful. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thank you to my guest Bokani on this episode of The Empty Canvas. Please like and subscribe, and maybe send this to somebody that you think needs a bit of a nudge on their own creative journey. I'll see you in the next episode.